Don't be a drag, don't be a putz. Just tune into an episode of Well That's Nuts.
Welcome to Wow That's Nuts, baby! Woo! Here we are. Wow.
I would have made it here on time if it wasn't for the crazy morning that I just experienced.
Oh, yeah? Why don't you tell me about it?
Well, I couldn't find my keys. How do keys just, they're all of a sudden on the table and they're not on the table? Like, what do I don't even have the excuse anymore that I'm drunk. I can't even use that excuse. I looked for over an hour for these keys. And right before I realized I don't know where my keys are and had to go find the spare. Oh my God. Miles does not like it when I leave the house because he's gotten so used to me working from home. So he literally looks at me. He sees that I'm putting my boots on and he knows I'm about to leave. So he gets right in the litter box, he looks me right in the eye, this cat. And he goes like this and he sets himself up and he's like, and he pees. He squirts. Have you ever seen a cat do this? They squirt straight against the wall and just pee on the wall. Have you ever seen a cat do that?
Yeah, I have 5 cats, so I've definitely seen that before.
Like, he doesn't do that all the time. He was doing it because he was mad because I was leaving.
Yep.
And he knew that that cat knew I was going to have to pick up the pee on the wall that he just squirted all over the wall.
Well, you know how Gilly, my dog, eats stuff anytime we leave the house. Even if we leave the room, she'll grab like a sock or eat the side of the wall or do like crazy stuff like that. It's
like they're
awful.
saying, you're going to leave the house and I don't like that, so I'm going to do everything I know that you don't like. I know you get mad when these things happen, so I'm going to do those things. And I guarantee you, he's the one that did something with those keys. He must have taken them on my kitchen table and started playing with them and put them somewhere. I know it was him. Anyway, well, I guess I should be happy that it wasn't crap he was thrown up against the wall.
Shooting turds on the wall.
That reminds me of turd on the floor.
Yeah, you want to tell the story of turd on the floor?
Oh my God.
First of all, when we made a video a long time ago called Turd on the Floor, and I didn't know how to spell turd, so it's on the internet as T-E-R-D.
It was literally when YouTube first came out. It was like 2000, I think YouTube came out in 2003 or something like that, and we put the video up in like 2006, and we had to make a video for it, and we were trying to get away from we'll call him Mike and Big Mike.
No, I know a Big Mike, so we can't use that name.
Oh, okay.
We just don't want to use their real names, but we'll just call them. How about Thing 1 and Thing 2?
yeah. Thing 1 was the father, and Thing 2 was the drummer in our band, and they did not find toilet humor as funny as we did, so we had to deal with that for 7 years that we worked with them because Thing 1 tried to be our manager. So anyway, we were trying to get away from them and do our own thing, and we just started doing this comedy thing, and we made this song called Turd on the Floor, which everyone that ended up hearing it and like because we went under like a pseudo name, like we went under a name.
Pseudo name.
Why did I say pseudo?
I don't know. You said that last time too.
I did?
Yeah. I cut it out.
Pseudo. Yeah.
This is my band Suedo. We were making a Suedo band.
Yeah, we're trying to make fun of other people, and I can't even pronounce words.
We're not making fun of anyone. We're just telling a story.
We're telling the story.
No, but
this is a real story.
Yeah, we were in a serious band with Thing 1 and Thing 2. Thing 1 was the manager. Thing 2 was the drummer, and they did not have toilet humor. So we can't survive without making fart jokes. So we made a side project where we just made like joke songs and like looped farts and stuff like that. And they found out about it. And Thing 1, our manager at the time, sent us or me an email. And what did it say in the email?
It's
Because I either forwarded it to you or you got it. One of the two.
It was like a grown man reenacting taking a crap on a camera, which you weren't. You were sitting on the toilet, but
Well-
you weren't.
Yeah, I had my pants on. It's not like I was showing my bum on YouTube. But anyway, they were really pissed about it, and
Because they were pissed about it because we were done with them and we didn't want to play with them we didn't want to play it anymore and we didn't want them in our band anymore, so
But-
they were mad.
yeah. And other people though that we were friends with appreciated what we were doing and thought it was really funny.
Yeah, like Dave Hemingway, rest his soul, passed away. I think it was 2015, 2016, I think. But anyway, he when he listened to that, he used to make us listen to it in the car, and he was like, "This is the greatest album I've ever heard." He's like, "This is one of the greatest albums I've ever heard." And he used to listen to it. He's like, "Can we listen to it again?"
Yeah, because it was only like 4 or 5 songs.
But I appreciated that he, who was like extremely talented and like down to earth and had a great sense, he loved it. So I was like, that's the only approval I need.
And half the songs on it were just fart loops.
We basically just took fart noises. There was no auto tune back then, and you had to make it all like in key. The farts you had to make in key, you'd be like.
Hold on, let me do one. So you start with the fart kick or the kick fart that would be like this. And then you got to do the snare fart or the fart snare. And then you can just add instruments like this. And then you can add another instrument like this. We didn't do this on the album, but we'll do it now. All right, you get the point. Why do some people have toilet humor and some don't?
Because some people were dropped on their heads when they were kids and others were not.
So we were dropped on our heads?
I don't know. But yeah, it must be weird for you, like being in a band with other people these last like how many years? 5 years? 6 years? And not being able to get that out, or unless there's people in the band that find it as funny as you do.
No one finds it as funny as me, but some of them are pretty close. So I still incorporate a lot of toilet humor. Actually, that's not true. One of the bands I'm in is like a bar band, and all the guys in the band appreciate farts and toilet humor. But I'm in a wedding band too, and it's a little more uppity. So those people do not. I don't do any toilet humor with them because I know they wouldn't appreciate it.
They'd have you fired.
One of these days, I'll just do one and see what happens. But I was too scared. This was my first year with them, so I was too scared to do it like at first because I don't want them to be like, all right, the hell with this guy, get him out of here.
I just want to do one and see what happens.
Well, you can't like do it. You got to do it like in between. Like you can't go to a wedding and make fart noises in the microphone and ruin someone's wedding, right? You got to do it behind the scenes.
Well, we all know that video would go viral on the internet if you did.
Well, when I'm gonna quit the band, I'll do that. No, I don't want to ruin anyone's wedding. That would be terrible. But yeah, so some people appreciate it and some don't. Some people just live in their own reality. Let's just
true.
put it that way.
And some people just think that certain things are funny that I don't find funny.
And some people just have warped visions of reality. I was talking with these guys after a show one time, and one of the guys is really into metal, and he goes, System of a Down are the Beatles of metal. And we all just started laughing. We were like, what? The hell are you talking about?
Like, how do you get System of a Down and the Beatles in the same category?
You don't. Imagine if the Beatles were around today and they covered a System of a Down song. Well,
What would that sound like?
hold on. It would be like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Wake up, grab a brush, put on a little makeup. All the scars to fade away, the shake up. Why'd you leave the keys upon the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to grab a brush, put on a little makeup. You wanted to hide the scars to fade away, the shake up. You wanted to. Why'd you leave the keys upon the table? You wanted to.
I think it would sound kind of like that. I can't do the Beatles accent, so I just did a generic English accent that was not very good.
You know, speaking of the Beatles, somebody I never saw this. Did you ever see? See, I've never been a big Beatles fan. I know. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't. I get it. You know what I mean? But it's like, but anyway, somebody took, because they're talking about all the Epstein files, obviously, and it's just, there's no words for it. But somebody took a Beatles album from like the late 60s. I never saw this album, and it was like an album of all of them, like with bloody toy babies around them. What the like? Why? Like, what is that?
That's crazy. So Beatles album cover featuring babies in the controversial Butcher cover for their 1966 U.S. compilation album Yesterday and Today, photographed by Robert Whitaker. The image features the band in white smocks covered with decapitated baby dolls and raw meat, intended as a satirical critique of fame or the Vietnam War. And I guess they pulled it off the shelf. Yeah, controversy. Due to immediate backlash, Capitol Records recalled the album and replaced it with a more conventional photo. Well, that makes sense. I mean, imagine being in the room with all the execs when they're figuring out what they're going to put out for the album cover, and they were all like, yeah, that's a good idea.
But like, were they trying, like, even back then, that's what people are talking about. Were they trying to tell us even back then? Did like these elitist groups like do this kind of crazy stuff even back then? Because I think obviously they did. But like then I was thinking about the Wall. Do you remember the scene in The Wall where the kids are going through the meat grinder? What the heck?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Right?
Yeah, another brick in the wall. Conformity and dehumanization. Schools are portrayed as factories, meat grinders, that treat children as livestock, stripping them of personality and creativity.
I got all that. Like, that's what I thought it was about. But now I'm wondering, was that really what it was about?
The scene featuring imagery by Gerald Scarfe is a direct criticism of post-war British schooling, which often used sarcasm as corporal punishment to suppress students.
Yeah, that's what the whole song's about. But now, I don't know. I'm just starting, obviously, people like me, we went down this rabbit hole like 10 years ago, and like I get that a lot of people are just catching up to stuff like now. But, it's like these people were doing these elitist groups have been doing sick stuff like this. I mean, it was even written about in the Bible. Like these groups of people would get together and do these horrible things to other humans. And I think it's the reality that there's more of them than we thought. I think that's the shocking part.
Well, it makes sense that it's coming out now because we live in the information age, so everybody has access to everything.
Right.
So all that stuff was behind the scenes in the past, and now everybody knows about it, so everyone's like freaking out. But sadly, it's been going on since probably the beginning of time.
Yeah.
I was reading a book about Led Zeppelin a few years ago. I forget the name of the book, but it went into how Jimmy Page was into all this occult stuff and how he bought Aleister Crowley's house.
Yep, I knew all about that like 15 years ago or whenever I discovered that. And like, if you really look into Aleister Crowley, most of these artists are worshiping that guy to this day. Like the doing all the occultist practices and rituals. It's about rituals.
Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page purchased the infamous Boleskine House, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, on the shores of Loch Ness, Scotland in 1970. Fascinated by occultist Aleister Crowley, who owned it from 1899 to 1913, Page bought the then dilapidated mansion for its atmosphere and songwriting inspiration. He sold it in 1992. Do you think it's a coincidence that it's on the shores of the Loch Ness?
I think all that stuff is connected. When you're practicing that kind of stuff, you're opening doors and like expect to see like ships and Sasquatch and monsters and everything. Anything can come through. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, when you start doing that stuff, be prepared for anything.
Motivation. Page was a collector of Crowley memorabilia and deeply interested in his work. When purchased, the house was in a state of decay, having been abandoned and damaged by fire. Page rarely lived there himself, instead having his friend Malcolm Dent manage the restoration and live on site. One of the other things they mentioned in the book was that, I don't know if it was this house or another house, but he, like, a 13-year-old girl moved in with them or something like that, and he, like, adopted her or something.
Yeah, like, and how many of them have done that? How many of them have gone after, like, kids? Like 13 years old, 16 years old. There's, like, I could sit here right now and name Prince. I mean, they all did this. Steven Tyler. Like, so there's just, I think there's more to this whole, like, and then, like, if you really look into Crowley and sex magic, and they were all into this. And even, like, somebody did a whole deep dive on Michael Jackson, like, the symbolism on his jackets and stuff like that. They were all studying this guy.
Well, Aleister Crowley was on the album cover of Dangerous by Michael Jackson, right? Didn't you say that?
Yep. And the Beatles too. They have him on there.
Yeah, Sgt. Pepper's, right?
Yep. I mean, it's I think the other thing too is it's always been right in our faces the whole time. It's just now, like we said, people are just like waking up to it, like, oh, it's really all of them. It's all of them that do this.
Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. A lot more than we suspected or thought in the, back in the day.
And what was Jimmy Page talking about in that book? How his life, like, blew up after all that. Just went down the crapper. Yeah,
after he started getting into the occult stuff, Zeppelin's notoriety and fame and everything took a little bit of a dive. So, and bad stuff started happening.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No joke. And then that house, I think, has burnt. That house in particular that Crowley lived in, didn't it burn down like 3 times?
Something like that, yeah. Later history. Following Page's ownership, the house was destroyed by fires in 2015 and 2019 and is currently undergoing restoration by the Boleskine House Foundation. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think it leads to, like, the whole thing, too. Like, we're talking about, like, if you want to play around with that stuff, look at all the people that were involved in horror movies and what happened to them in their lives. Like, you could do a whole deep dive on that because you're opening doors to evil, and you know, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I was just recently listened to the autobiography of William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist, and basically a lot of stuff happened during and after the film, like crazy stuff, like people died and stuff like that. But not only that, his career kind of took a dive after that movie. Like, he did some stuff that was somewhat successful, but nothing as successful as The Exorcist. It kind of just went downhill from there. And one of the crazy things is that on one of the movies he was filming after The Exorcist, I don't remember the name of it, but they did this scene where they had to build a bridge over this river. And the locals because they were in a different country, and the locals in the area said, this river never gets above this level, like whatever, wherever it sat on the shore. So when they built the bridge, the water came up over the bridge and destroyed it, which had never happened before. So they had to stop production, move to a different area in a different country, I believe, and make another bridge, and the same thing happened again.
See?
Which had never happened before in that area either.
Yeah. So it's like the devil's literally like, you want to play? I'll give you something to play with.
All the people we looked up to growing up, now we hear all this crazy stuff about them. It's like, man, why didn't we know all that, and why were we inspired by these people who did awful things.
Well, then it was also like this too. Like you had the people that were literally like they were doing it right under our nose, and they were doing it covertly. Right?
Not to say that like any of those people, like William Friedkin, besides making The Exorcist, I don't know whether he did anything bad or not. But I'm just saying that he, is it a coincidence that all that stuff happened after he made that movie, or is it not? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look at The Omen. Look at what happened to those people. Look at what happened to Heather O'Rourke. I just watched a documentary on her like a few weeks ago.
She was in Poltergeist, right?
Yep. I mean, it's just, one could say, oh yeah, that's just, you're speculating, that's just this and that. But like, I think two things were going on, especially in the 70s and 80s, that there was like the covert elitists or people practicing, these rituals. Some people say it's not Satanism. It's called, there's many words for it, whatever. They're practicing dark arts, right? And then there were people that were just like they were purposely like coming out with, because the Satanic Panic happened in the 80s, and like people were flipping out about that, so they went with it. So like Slaughter and who else was like really behind all like the crazy lyrics and like the
satanic imagery?
Satanic imagery, yeah. Like people said that Iron Maiden was doing it, but I guess later on Bruce Dickinson did some interviews and he was like, no, he's like, I was talking about like the reality of the devil and stuff when I was talking about it. But anyway, all this to say that then you had all the talk shows, right? Where they would put people on the talk shows to talk about the Satanic Panic thing. Did you ever read, I think it's Nikki Sixx's book, where he talks about that he started reading about all that stuff and was like learning about it, and like him and Lisa Ford literally watched like forks fly.
Lita Ford.
Yeah, why did I say Lisa Ford? I'm getting my perimenopause brain is getting old. Yeah, but they literally watched like forks fly across the room, and he wrote about it in his book. The both of them witnessed this because they were reading about that dark stuff. So, anyway,
we were still heavily influenced by all that.
I know.
Whether it was bad or not, like we still like, Led Zeppelin and Motley Crue, we were into that when all that stuff came out.
Yeah, you think about how many of these artists, and if Michael Jackson, if they were all doing that and we were all listening to their albums, don't you think that affected us?
I don't know.
I'd say we're a little nuts.
I have fond memories of making fart noises to Zeppelin songs when we were on tour in the car. That's how we used to amuse ourselves when we were touring. We used to drive around. Sometimes we'd have like between 3 and 7 hour drives to get to the next show when we were touring around the country. So we would amuse ourselves in the car by just making fart noises to songs on the car that we were listening to. The one I remember is,
anyone's listening to this right now is probably like, they're not very intelligent, huh?
Remember, we did it to pretty much every song that came on the radio, but the one that I remember cracking up at the most was in "Whole Lot of Love" by Zeppelin. The breakdown part in the middle of the song where it's just like crazy noises and stuff. I remember for that whole breakdown part, you just made like a long fart noise through the entire thing, and I just busted out laughing. We laughed for like 10 minutes straight about it. Well, you were just like.
Well, listen, we now know with the internet that there's people as sick and crazy as we are, because now there's videos of songs that sound better with farts. We just need to make we should probably put that up. We should take that song and put the fart noises to it and put it up.
Well, some of the people that we looked up to also like had definitely had a sense of toilet humor. Like, remember the story of Tommy Lee walking in on Ozzy when he was writing with poop on the wall in the hotel room?
That is beyond like farts are funny. Like, that is actually taking your fecal matter, and like, he was obviously on drugs. He was
but I will say this: if you walked into a hotel room and saw your friend writing the word poop on the wall with poop, what would you do? Would you laugh? I think I would initially laugh and then just get the hell out of there.
Tommy Lee said that he was in such shock. He was just like, "No, man, that's gone too far." And he's like turned around and got out of there. He was like scared. You can tell when he tells the story that he was scared of him.
Imagine if Ozzy was just like a closet toilet humor guy, and like the rest of the band got annoyed by it and didn't want to hear it anymore. Like, imagine if that's what his lyrics were about, and then the band just changed it after. Like, imagine his guitarist was like, "Hey, Ozzy, I heard you got some lyrics to that riff I came up with last week. Do you want to try them out?"
Sure. Far in the dark, one step away from home. Far in the dark, nothing that you can do. All right.
Everyone else in our bands had to deal with our toilet humor, and I feel bad for him. Didn't one of them accuse you of being a fecal-philiac?
No, that was some random guy on MySpace. He used to tell my friends, like, "Don't you realize that she's a fecal-philiac?" See, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you have to, like, go pervert something that God gave us as a great sense of humor. I think God made farts for all of us to laugh. That's what I think.
Wasn't your first back in the day when we used AOL Instant Messenger to communicate with each other? Your screen name was Rip Fought All Night. Rip Fought All Night.
Spell F-O-T.
Yeah.
So people had to like look at it and be like, R-I-P F-O-T-A-L-N-I-T-E. They're like, "Oh, Tracy." And I was like an RA. I was an RA at Rhode Island College. Like, that was my screen name if people wanted to get in contact with me. Yeah. I don't know, but getting back to that whole Aleister Crowley thing. What I was going to say is the whole Loch Ness Monster thing, too, over there.
Yeah. So, but the Loch Ness Monster was seen like way back in the day before Aleister Crowley,
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah.
But imagine if he like summoned the Loch Ness Monster by doing all his crazy magic and spells that he was doing. Imagine if he just does a spell and then he looks out the window and sees a big eye there. And it's the Loch Ness Monster looking at him. Well, what would that be like? Okay, you be the 911 operator and I'll be Aleister Crowley. Hold on. Abracadabra. Whoosh. And then he looks out the window. 911. Beep, 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 beep. Wait, do they have 911 in Scotland?
It goes, yeah, it probably goes,
Yeah.
911, what's your emergency?
I summoned the monster. There's a beast in my window. Help! I was doing my magic and the beast came and is looking at me.
I think the pharmacist just called my laptop and I think it went through. I think somehow it answered. Imagine if they were listening to the whole thing. Your medication's ready.
I summoned the beast.
They're going to be calling my doctor telling me he put me on something else.
I just realized that I gave Aleister Crowley the voice of one of our kids that we went to high school with. No, not high school,
grammar
elementary.
school.
Grammar school, yeah. Remember that kid?
He one time he didn't want to get off, he didn't want to get in trouble, and he knew that if he got up off of his seat that he was going to the principal's office. So he was telling Mrs. Cooter, "I can't get up. I'm glued to my seat." And this went on for 20 minutes. He's like, "I can't get up. I can't. I swear. I'm glued to the seat." And then finally when he got up, I think that was the time he ran outside and just took off running. I think that was the last time we saw him. I think they had to put him in a special school.
So many kids that we went to school with had ADD or ADHD, and it just wasn't a thing then. So
Yeah.
everyone just had to deal with it. I remember this one kid that I went to high school with. He was just always off his rocker. He just say the craziest stuff, and just be nuts all the time. And he was also allergic to peanuts, so like he would freak out when anyone brought peanuts into the room. And so one time I think he had an allergic reaction. But anyway,
he died from that.
He would always go up to me and sing, what's that Van Halen song? It's Jump. He would sing, he would come up to me like, he would always be like this. Hey, Sean. Hey, what's going on, man? And then he would sing that song to me, the same part every time, but he would change the lyrics to, he would change it to, can't you see me standing here? I got my caught in the record machine. But anyway, to this day, anytime I have to sing that song on stage, I sing those lyrics, but I just make it really like unrecognizable. So only the guys in the band hear what I'm saying, and no one else does. And they all laugh every time. I love it. So that in that band, I can use the toilet humor, but if I did that at a wedding, that would not go over too well.
No. I'll tell you what, it's been a nice break for me, taking some time from playing in bands. I don't know how you've done it all these years.
I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
It's better than sitting in front of a computer all day, which is what I do most of the time.
True. No, I don't know that I could deal with guys in a van and stinky feet anymore.
Well, I don't deal with that anymore because it's all local stuff. It's all New England, so
yeah.
I don't have to go in. When I was traveling on the bus with the guys in the band, I did not enjoy that because the bus sucks. So now I just drive myself, and it's much better. But I don't know if I've mentioned this to you lately, but I cannot leave the house without somebody telling me what celebrities I look like.
Really?
Every time. It doesn't matter if I'm doing a show. Half the time I'm holding a guitar, so I understand some of the references. But even if I'm just like, I went to Marley's school the other day, and one of the other dads walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, anybody ever tell you look like Howard Stern?" Oh no, it was Weird Al. It was Weird Al. Anyone ever tell you look like Weird Al? Yeah, buddy.
You're still getting that 30 years later.
These are the ones I get all the time: Howard Stern, Weird Al. And then the musical references are the ones at shows where I'm holding a guitar. So the obvious ones that people say are Brian May, Mick Mars, somebody from Kiss, anybody with long hair and a big nose, long curly hair and a big nose. That's who they think I look like. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, look like Howard Stern. Yes, they did. You want to tell me again?
Remember the time we were on tour and the girl comes, we were like at Shoney's or something down south, we were eating at one of those like chain restaurants, and she comes from behind, she goes, "Ladies, what can I get for you?"
Oh, that happens all the time too. Excuse me, ma'am. Oh, sir. What? What do you want?
Yeah.
I'm eating over here. I'm playing guitar over here.
It never ever stopped. Oh God. I don't know what you would do. I don't know what would happen if you did cut your hair. You would look like a completely different person probably at that point.
Yeah, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I'm keeping it. All right. Anything else we want to put in here before we wrap this up?
I don't know. I think we've covered it all for this talk. We're basically just letting the camera roll while we this is what normally goes on during when the times we try to get together to practice. So we figured we'd share our stupid thoughts with all of you.
Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.
For more farts.
Bye-bye.